Like most of us, I don't remember very much from when I was really young, but I always remember going to this one place, and I would be in a room playing games. I would go there every once in a while, thinking it was some type of appointment for my mom, or maybe something else. I never thought it had anything to do with me. Around the same time, I went to junior set, a preschool that myself and many other kids from Coburg went to. I always remember my mom dropping me off, and I remember this window that I would always look through, often banging over and over again in desperation, hoping my mom would come back and take me home, even though I was only there for a few hours each day I went. I remember when you walked in the front door, there were stairs straight ahead, which led to another floor where the bathroom was, and I always hid at the top of those stairs, afraid to socialize with other kids, and even sometimes the adults that I trusted. My mom tells me that even though the drop-off was hard for me, I had many favorite activities and I loved the encouraging teachers. As soon as I knew it, I was starting public school. Now, something to note about that, I started school a year late. It wasn't until my late elementary years that I realized this, as I just adjusted to my peer group as if it was where I was supposed to be. Going through public school, I had never had to deal with being teased, which I'm very thankful for. I was always able to make friends. The years in public school went by very quickly, and I made more friends as I went along and made many memories along the way. Then I was in high school. At the beginning of high school, it was very overwhelming. Doing things such as getting involved and trying new things were very stressful. Feeling more comfortable in a new environment could all be a lot to handle. But I always found a way to cope with these changes, and in no time, I was settled in. For the first little while, it was really great. Then friend groups began to separate as things began to change, and I slowly noticed my large group of friends from public school split apart. By the end of this transition, I only had a few very close friends left, and many others which I was loosely connected to. Sometimes it was difficult to make new friends. I wouldn't always know what to do, and how to start up a conversation, and get to know them more. It was soon afterwards that my parents began to start conversations with me about something called Aspergers Syndrome. This is my story. I didn't always know I had Asperger's, and when I sat down to ask my mom about the early years, she told me that it all started when I had seizures as a toddler. I was put on strong medication that interfered with my behavior, my sleep, and my development. In some ways, it hid what was really happening to me. They went to see a pediatrician, and my parents were informed by our pediatrician that they could clearly tell that something was different about me, and that I had some type of neurological issue. Soon after I began having these seizures, our pediatrician began to start a developmental therapy with me. My parents thought that I wasn't really developing between the ages of 2 and 4 when I was on that medication. My parents thought that maybe the medication I was taking was causing a delay in my development, so they took me off of it. In a short amount of time of being off the medication, they noticed I was already making improvements, rarely having seizures, although my parents kept doing therapy with me to continue making improvements. I started junior set to help me be around other people, learn social skills such as sharing and learning to interact in general. When I was 3 years old, almost 4, my parents knew that since I had this delay in my development, I wouldn't be going to school that fall like most kids my age would be. So they tried putting me in Montessori school 1 day a week, and on the very first day, something had already gone wrong. My mom received this call from the Montessori school. They called saying they didn't know where I was, and my mom hurried and went out driving, looking for me. She tells me that she found me on a corner of 2 streets, in the arms of a friend of hers. My mom's friend told her that she saw me walking towards where I lived, and she followed me to make sure I wasn't lost. When my mom asked me why I was walking home, my response was, "Don't worry, Mom, I looked both ways." This was the beginning of my Asperger's story. My parents tell me that after this, they went back to our pediatrician and they told them that they found it odd their 3-year-old knew where their home was and that they knew to cross the road and look both ways. My parents tell me that they continued doing therapy with me, and that over the next 2 years I developed very well, and that the therapy was helping a lot, and being a junior set helped a lot as well with the social difficulties. When I was about 5 years old, our doctor started hinting that I might have Aspergers Syndrome, and over that year they were waiting to see what would make of that. I continued to go to junior set and make small improvements along the way with my therapy. But in the time that I wasn't in school, I had a lot of interests, such as trains, both real trains and even Thomas the Tank Engine. I would often watch episodes of the Thomas the Tank Engine show, and then repeat exactly what happened in each episode with the toy trains that I played with. I also had very particular interests, such as wheels. Maybe that's where my interest in Thomas the Tank Engine and trains in general came from. I was officially diagnosed with Aspergers Syndrome when I was 6 years old. I began school the fall that I turned 6, and my parents told me that I was very successful in school that year. But I remember one day that year, I walked home during the day to switch mini sticks to play with at recess when I was in senior kindergarten, and my mom asked me why I came home. I would answer honestly, saying I came home to switch mini sticks, acting like there was nothing wrong with what I was doing. My mom says that when I returned to school, she made sure that the teacher taught me that it was wrong to leave school during the day. When I came home that day, my mom tells me that she remembers me saying that I knew I couldn't go home anymore when I was in school. Mini-sticks played an important role in my development and social interaction at school. Even though I had a hard time interacting with kids, this wasn't the case when I played a game of mini-sticks. So by playing a game, before and after school and during recess, I learned how to interact with other kids. I believe without mini-sticks, I would have a difficult time making friends. Mini-sticks were so important to me that I would often bring extra for other kids, because ever since junior kindergarten, I was told that everyone would be able to play if one person did, and I always took rules seriously. Hockey was beginning to become a strong interest of mine at the time. My dad always got me involved with that, and we would watch the NHL whenever the Toronto Maple Leafs would play. The fall I turned 6, I started playing ice hockey. My parents told me stories about when I first started, how when I first stepped on the ice, I thought I'd be a star, even though the first thing I did was fall over. Over the years, I kept developing my skills in hockey, and now I'm much better than when I started. Unlike mini-sticks, ice hockey was a way for me to get to know kids from outside my friend group in school. Through all the games I played in, and the tournaments that I went to, I was able to continue to develop those social skills. Whether that be me bringing all my mini-stick gear to our hotel, or getting up early to go to the rink for that first game with my teammates, it was always a way for me to develop those skills through interaction with kids I didn't know. I've become friends with most of the people I've played with, and I'm still friends with them today. Going back to school, I was always in a class with a teacher who was up to the challenge of having someone like me in their class. To have someone who may have been a bit different, but they always found ways to get through to me. I was often sensitive to people touching me. For example, something as simple as getting a haircut for me was a frightening experience. My parents tell me that when I had a haircut, I would scream because I didn't like having other people touching my head. But over time, with the things that my parents have learned to help me, and all the therapy I did when I was younger, I was able to learn how to become more comfortable with these things that I was sensitive to. As the years of public school passed, the years kept getting better and more improvement was seen through the way that I acted. Something I really struggled with in terms of the social side of Asperger's was in conversations, such as keeping my eye contact in particular. My parents would ask me why I didn't make eye contact, and they would tell me my answer was quite literally because it made my mind go crazy. This is something called sensory overload. This happens when I have too many things going on in my head at once, such as someone being too close to me, or some kind of noise bothering me, or a bright light being very sensitive to my eyes. It would cause me to feel extreme anxiety or stress in that very moment. Sometimes when this happened, my teacher would have an empty envelope that they would ask me to bring to the office so I could keep moving around. I was often a kid who needed to move around not only to stay focused and not get off track, but to help me calm down if I seemed stressed or anxious about a sensory overload that I was having. Going into high school, I was much more comfortable with socializing with people and dealing with my sensory overloads, because my parents put so much effort into developing those skills when I was younger, through the therapy they did, and through the research that they did on their own. Since grade 8, I've refereed hockey as a part-time job. Through refereeing, I've been able to develop socially, but also use my respect for the rules to help others learn while enforcing those rules. Through this experience, I've been able to learn about who I am. For many years, my parents have helped me to navigate the world, discover myself, and learn how to overcome the challenges of living with Asperger's. Even though I know I'll always have their support, it feels as if the torch has been passed to me. Now it's my decision on how I want to perceive Aspergers Syndrome. I can think of it as a problem with no solution and use it as a crutch, but I think I'll continue to do what my parents started, which is learning about myself and finding out how I can handle my difficulties. I want people to realize that Asperger's isn't something you see or you know when you look at someone. but that it's only through conversation and getting to know them that you may start to realize that they may have some type of social difficulty. My message is that I want people to be sensitive and empathetic not only to those with Asperger's, but to those with any type of invisible disorder or disability, because you never know what they are like or what they deal with until you get to know them.